Hello. Very short break, but apparently all the noise in my neighborhood has stopped. We're here with the Tyger, the follow-up poem to The Lamb by William Blake. Everything up at the top is pretty much the same. We come down here to its publication date. It's published not in Songs of Innocence, but in a companion piece. He published them both together, called Songs of Experience. The combined work is generally called Songs of Innocence and Experience, something about the dual nature of man. 1794, 1795. Blake sells very few copies of these. Publishes them in his own print shop. He sells very few copies, gets them out there. So you find one today, you're in great shape. It's going to be worth millions and millions and millions of dollars. He's an older man now and an older artist. He has a more sophisticated understanding of the world and how it works. Might not be happy with all those things, but he has a sophisticated understanding of it. It's written in 6 quatrains, and you look at all the question marks. So many question marks in the Tyger. Maybe we don't have all the answers as adults, or maybe the questions are just much harder to come to. That childlike understanding of the Lamb isn't there anymore. God is portrayed, starting over there, number 1, imagery, characterization, if you will. The Creator, or God, is portrayed as a blacksmith in stanzas 2, 3, and 4. Number 2, we deal with stanza 5, refers directly back to the Lamb. So we have a callback right there to the original poem. And number 3, if the Lamb is good and pure and innocent, is the Tyger necessarily evil? We don't know. We'll talk about that more once we get inside. Tyger, Tyger, burning bright in the forest of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? Gotta strain the rhyme there to make it work. In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? What the hammer, what the chain, in what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil, what dread grasp, dare its deadly terrors clasp? When the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears, did he smile his work to see? Did he who made the Lamb make thee? Tyger, Tyger, burning bright in the forest of the night, what immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry? So document camera, we'll mark these bad boys up, and we'll be done. We'll be done with the school year. We'll be done with the school year, 9th graders, at least for English. All right, thank you. Here we are, folks. We're back. It's The Tyger by William Blake. His most famous poem, and probably one of the poems in the packet that you might have already known or seen before. Tyger, Tyger, burning bright in the forest of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? I gotta strain the rhyme there a little bit, but again, we're working with end rhyme. Night, bright, eye, symmetry. Okay, here's where I begin to make the point about imagery. Okay, this creator, that this different speaker is struggling with some similar questions. Who made the Tyger? Who made the Tyger? Okay, what immortal hand or eye? Who else is immortal but God? Okay, what God made you, basically? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? Who would grab that? Okay, you need something to grab fire. You can't grab fire with your bare hands. There we go. And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? Shoulder, you have to have skill and strength. And often, in every town that had one, blacksmith was the biggest, strongest guy. Sinews is muscles, the muscles of the tiger's heart. And when that heart began to beat, what dread hand, what dread feet? What the hammer, what the chain, in what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil, what dread grasp, dare its deadly terrors clasp? You need some sort of tongs here. And all these other things are the tools of a blacksmith. So it's less, it seems less of a Judeo-Christian version of God, much more of a pagan. This is like Vulcan working down in the bowels of a volcano, forging the tiger, which is so different than the lamb. So many different attributes. Doesn't have that soft clothing of delight. Doesn't have that beautiful voice. It's a tiger. It's a predator. And when the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears, did he smile his work to see? Did he who make the lamb make thee? If God's responsible for everything in the world, why is there a tiger? And it's at this point where I think a lot of people go off the rails in their interpretation of the poem. Okay, they begin to think that the tiger is inherently evil just because it's aggressive. It's not. Okay, it's not necessarily evil. It might be assertive. It might be strong. It might be assertive. But it's not necessarily evil. We'll cross that out because it's not necessarily evil. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night, what immortal hand or eye dare frame their fearful symmetry? And there's symmetry again. That gets Mr. Abernathy to where he wants to talk about aspects of the poem. Okay. Again, this is in a child speaker up here. Whoop, whoop. Child speaker. And since this is in Songs of Experience, can we assume that this is a adult speaker? And again, the adult world is more difficult. Why are there bad things? Why do things like cancer happen? Why do things like racism occur? If God's responsible for everything, then why does God let some of these things occur? Some of these things that could be symbolized by the tiger. Okay, this engine of destruction, this mean, powerful, aggressive creature. Why does God let stuff like that happen? And I think it comes down to more about symmetry, okay? Being in balance. Because, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to come as a shock to everyone listening to this video, lambs and tigers don't read poetry. They don't. They don't create poetry. They don't read poetry. We, human beings, read poetry. Again, there are a bunch of different versions of the tiger that I could show you. Boop. But this is the one that I was able to print off. Okay. The version I give out in class, it's dark up here. It's blue. It's literally the forest of the night. Here's the tree. The different branches frame the different stanzas. And you get down, and there's almost an orange glow around the tiger in the version that I give out in class. I couldn't get that one. I couldn't get that one to print out. Okay. But if you look really closely, right here, the tiger's smiling. Okay. This is not a violent engine of destruction. This is a tiger that sells you breakfast cereal, okay? Should have a red handkerchief around his neck telling you that you're great, okay? So we are the focus. And what do you understand as an adult? Yes. Always try and be innocent. Always try and be meek and mild and compassionate. But to get around in the adult world, in the modern world, you need some of the attributes of the tiger. You need to be strong. You need to be assertive. Okay? You don't necessarily need to be aggressive, but you need some of that tiger's strength. Okay? A tiger can only be a tiger. Okay? A lamb can only be a lamb. But as a human being, this is important. This is going to be on your test, I believe. You need to understand the dual nature of man. Okay? We have aspects of both, and we have free will. We can choose in a certain situation of what we need. We can choose to be the lamb. We can choose to be the tiger. Sometimes you need aspects of both to get along in the adult world. Tiger can only be a tiger. Lamb can only be a lamb. A lamb can all of a sudden decide that it's going to go eat meat and hunt, raccoons and wolves and wild. It can't do it. It's a lamb. It doesn't have that attribute. A tiger can't all of a sudden decide that he's going to eat hay and grass and graze. I'm going to go vegan. I'm not going to kill other animals. They don't have choices. We do. Be aware of your dual nature and do your best to reconcile those two natures, to be in harmony, to be in symmetry, be in balance. Ladies and gentlemen, The Lamb and the Tiger, our last two poems. Not call and answer, although it's, one poet seems to be answering, but he's answering himself, so it's not a call and answer. Whereas you go back to Christopher Marlowe and Sir Walter Raleigh, that's one poet putting some artwork out there and another poet responding. This is all our friend William Blake. There's the tiger. There's the lamb. Both of these are on my Google Classroom page. I will post the test ASAP.